Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average Joel. So, we are on episode 28 today. And before I tell you what this topic is about, I would like to welcome back Tony to my podcast. So, if any of y'all have been watching or listening to my episodes, you will remember Tony from episode 20, where we talked about real estate. And I went into that not knowing much about real estate. I knew a little bit just because my dad is a broker. So he does a little bit of real estate on the side from his primary job, which is at Coca-Cola. So I knew just a little bit, but Tony was able to give me a little bit more insight as far as the process of like what it takes to get a house, whether it's a new house from the ground up or a house that somebody's already been living in. And like I learned a lot of terminology from that too. So I definitely appreciated him being on that one with me. And this topic's going to be a little bit different, but before I tell you the topic, I just wanted to say welcome back, Tony. And it's good to have you.
Thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, no problem. So today's topic is going to be a little and when you hear it, everybody's going to be thinking, "Oh my gosh, Joel's going to bring this into his topics and to his conversations." But I mean, it's reality. I mean, it's something that happens to all of us. So the topic today is going to be on death. So I know that sounds very dark. I know we are in October, haunted houses and all these scary movies and Michael Myers, stuff like that. So, as I know, as death is definitely a situation that, a lot of people may be thinking, like, oh my gosh, why do you want to talk about death? It's like such a horrible, horrible moment. And I'm going to try to make this conversation as light as possible. The first question may be the only question where maybe a little intense, depending on how we answer it. But the rest of these, I'm going to try to make these as 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 fun, not fun, but like as lighthearted as possible. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into this first question, and I'm gonna have Tony answer first, and then I'm gonna answer as well. And then we will keep moving forward as far as these questions. I have four questions for him today. So my first question is going to be, is death a moment that you fear or used to have a fear of?
Um, so I think that honestly, it's something that I guess I feel like it's something that I don't really think I can comprehend entirely until because like you go through the whole like stages of grief. Um, so it's like on one hand, it's like yeah, it's unpleasant. On the other hand, it's like well, it's gonna happen anyway. So uh, it really kind of changes depending on my mood. I know that whenever I was really little, I guess I had more of a thought of like when you're a kid, you just think about like how you're a kid, so you just don't. You're just like, oh, that's far away. I don't really gotta think about that. So it wasn't really scary then, and now it's kind of something. It's kind of like halfway matter of fact, halfway like, well, I'll think about it kind of thing. Um, so, but yeah, I mean that's definitely it's more like it's a question or it's a thing that when you think about it, it opens up more things to think about. I guess you should say.
Yeah, that is true, Leslie. And once you start thinking about death, then you start thinking about all these like sub questions that go behind that kind of question. So that's definitely true. And even for me, I'm kind of torn on this answer because, um, like for me, I guess, well, I want to point this out. Like I know we both go have different walks of life when it comes to religion. So I wanted to point that out and for my viewers as well. So for me, like, I consider myself a Christian. So, and as a Christian, I think people don't want to think of we know we're going to die, but no one wants you to be scared to die. And I think like if you're a Christian and you say that you're scared to die, it almost makes it sound like you don't trust God or you don't trust where you're going to go when you die, which we will cover that a little bit more as we get on later on down this episode. But I feel like, a lot of people may think, like, yeah, if you say you're scared to die, also, yeah, it makes it sound like you don't want, like basically you just want to stay here on Earth as long as possible. And I mean, yeah, like I could say I am kind of torn on that just because there's so many things in life that like I have done and I'm definitely glad that I've done, but there are things also that I still want to do. And I'm still, young. I'm not even 30 years old yet. And, there's still a lot of life to live. But I know, unfortunately, people do, die, pass away at younger ages too. So I just wanted to live, every day to the fullest. But for me, as of right now, I kind of go in between. Like right now, I kind of feel like, you know, just accepting it because that's what's going to happen to us eventually when we get as we're one day closer to our time. So as I just know it's bound to happen. But I do still struggle definitely with the idea of dying, and it kind of makes me start wondering, oh no, like what's going to happen to me? How am I going to die? Can I just die peacefully in my sleep? Like there's like a lot of things that go into that. So yeah, I definitely is it definitely could be a struggle for me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I don't really think that like the actual process of dying, like unless I'm straight up being like tortured to death or something, like I'm not really worried about that. It's more about, like, well, what's going on after that and what exactly will that look like? And of course, there's also the thing that would actually scare me more than, well, I don't want to say more than either of those, but would scare me more than the dying part is like if I were to die, while I still have loved ones, like it is actually like something that really bothers me to think about because like what if, because like I've seen glimpses of that. Like for example, whenever in 2017 I got in a really bad car accident, and I came out of it okay. But whenever I called my parents, and I was in Montgomery, they were in Enterprise, and so it's about an hour and a half drive. And I called them, I'm still in shock, and they just instantly dropped everything, packed their bags, got some, I guess some clothes that I still had back at their place or something, and rushed to come see me. But it's just like, it's like as soon as you see your loved ones after something like that happens, like you can see that emotion all over their face. You can see how terrified they are to lose someone that they care about so much. And thinking about that is more difficult to me than thinking about myself actually dying, um, because I don't want to do that to anybody. um,
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, and I can definitely kind of relate to your story. Not that it was me being close to death or being in a like bad car accident, but my mom, she back in 2018, this actually was like right around the time we were both graduating from college. She was diagnosed like 3 days after I graduated from college. She was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer.
I think I
And
remember I remember seeing you post about that actually.
yeah, Melissa, and it was definitely hard because like she wasn't even at my graduation because she was having a hysterectomy like a few days before. And like I said, she had a full hysterectomy, and she was, recovering, and she was, at St. Vincent's Hospital recovering while I was graduating. But thank goodness for technology nowadays because UAB was doing a Facebook Live on the graduation. So my sister-in-law was able to go up there and like have, her see me graduate. And, she got to see me walk across and all that. So I was glad for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, well, that's
But
cool.
yeah, so I was glad for that. But like once my mom got diagnosed, 2019 was emotionally draining for me because there were many times, even there at the beginning at 2018, she like when they were doing the full hysterectomy, she had like another big like I think they consider it like an abscess that was like here on her like abdomen or like stomach area, and it was like growing. And like so they said something like if they didn't do the surgery that day, that like within a few days that she was going to be gone. So
Yeah.
they were able to do that, and thankfully, Liza, she was okay from that. But that was just the beginning of the journey because that was even before she was diagnosed. So, fast forward maybe like 9 or 10 months later, in September of 2019. At this point, she went through 9 rounds of chemo, and then the cancer was still there. It was just like it was a one little piece of cancer that was like hidden all the way up, like way up in her. So they had to do a surgery. At this point, we moved over to UAB because there was some weird stuff with St. Vincent's, and the fellow we could trust the UAB staff a little bit more. So we transferred her over to UAB at this point. And anyway, she had her surgery at UAB, and they got the cancer out successfully. So we thought, oh great, like this is good. Like hopefully stays away. And but a few weeks later, well, actually, no, a few days later, before she even got out of the hospital, she said that she couldn't feel her leg. Like one of her legs was very numb. And I think it was because of whatever whatever they were doing, like during the removal of it, they must have hit a nerve and made it to where her left leg was numb. And and it's kind of a double whammy for her because she has like these varicose veins. It's like very like it could cause blood clots. So anyway, like a few weeks after that surgery, I went to work, and anyway, I got a call later in the day that like my mom fainted. And I was thinking like, oh, like I didn't know if she fainted because like previous times when I've heard that she fainted, it was more of just she fell over because of her leg being so weak. So I was just thinking maybe she just fell and that maybe she's okay. But anyway, I heard she was going to the hospital. So I was thinking, well, hopefully they're just gonna check her and maybe she'll be okay and come back home. But anyway, a few hours later went by and one of my brothers called me, and he said this isn't good. He's like she only has like 2 to 3 hours left to live. So we were like, whoa. So like we all had a we all flew to the hospital. And oh, at this point, like of course I was emotionally drained. Once I got there, all of my family, a lot of my family was there already, and we were just there waiting and waiting, waiting. Uh, and anyway, she only had like a 30% chance of this surgery working. And it actually ended up working. Whatever they did, it worked. And to this day, she is 3 years cancer free as of right now. So that is definitely good. But I
Yeah.
bring all this up just because just the idea of death, like because we thought that day that the doctors were going to come out and say that we're sorry that she's gone. And
Yeah.
that was definitely very hard to take in because I, especially when you're close to a family member like that, I'm really close with my mom. I feel
Yeah.
like I look to her as like, I mean, I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, mama's boy," but but I mean, I'll claim that with pride. So,
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm I guess mama's boy. I taught me and her have really deep conversations, and the thought of not having her was hard. So, like I said, it's just definitely death can be take a big effect on people. And like I'm definitely glad with your situation that you ended up okay, and that that you were safe from all that. But I know how it can affect people for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I totally like right there with you. I mean, like I text my mom like every day, so like it's yeah, I hear you. That's definitely been something that I mean, it's one of those inevitabilities, that you wish didn't have to be an inevitability. Losing those that are close to you, um, you just the only thing you can really do is make the most of the time that you have, whether that's your time or your time with someone else. And it's a bittersweet thing, but that's kind of just the state of things. I mean,
Mhm.
what can you do? I mean, you can do a lot in that we have modern technology, we have life support, we have all kinds of interesting medicines. I mean, God, my mom has so many different things that she's had to explore medically, and actually, that's a lot of what we talk about is health stuff because I inherited so many of her health problems, and it's just, especially before I started really like losing weight and stuff, a lot of it was getting really, really bad. And she's like, "Oh, you sound like I did whenever I was, I think she was actually younger than me when she started having some of those problems. But uh, it's just it's really complicated and weird. I mean, heck, she was told she wasn't even supposed to have kids, and now she's had two. So it's like, just all kinds of stuff. But I mean, I think that could be a whole other conversation about health complications because that is definitely several episodes of my life, and our family, really all of that. But I don't want to get too off topic.